Hi, hello, welcome back to another episode. Today, I wanted to try and give you guys some advice for setting up a freestyle skateboard. If you're still not sure if you really want to get into freestyle, but you want to give it a try and you don't want to commit to buying a full board complete, I'm going to go over some tips and advice you can do to modify your current street skateboard into a freestyle skateboard. I'm going to let you know of some options that you can buy to help set up your street skateboard to be more accessible for some freestyle tricks and stances. So this is my current street skateboard. It's an 8.5. I would say if you're trying to modify your street skateboard setup into a more freestyle friendly one, maybe look into getting a board that's a bit smaller or skinnier. This one here is an all-timers deck and it's an 8. I would say if you could find a board between a 7.5 and an 8, that would probably be more ideal. Also, something that would be a bit more ideal is if you can find a wheelbase for your board that is at least 14 inches at the longest and preferably shorter than that. If you don't know how to measure your own wheelbase, it's just these two inside bolts. So you can just take a tape measure, go in between the two and measure it out. This one's 14 1/4, so I don't know how great this board would be for freestyle, but you can still do it. Now, the next thing that I would recommend doing if you're trying to set up your street skateboard to be more freestyle friendly is to maybe look for trucks that are slightly smaller than your board. Typically, street skateboarding, and I think verse skateboarding is the same way, you want your trucks to be lined up and be flush with the side of your board. This is an 8.5 board, and these are Ace 55s, so it's a perfect setup for street skateboarding. If you want to be more freestyle friendly though, I'd recommend looking for a truck that is set up for an 8.25. So 8.25 truck on an 8.5 board, that would work. If you're skating an 8, look for trucks that are more 7.5. If you had an 8-inch board and you put 7.5 trucks on it, that could work really, really well. Now, alternatively, what you also want to do to your trucks is look for harder bushings. You can find bushings just at any skate shop, and usually it has the durometer rating on them. If you can find a durometer bushing that is at least 99 to 100, that would be perfect. Some freestyle skateboarders like having their trucks kind of loose so they can carve and turn around, but typically it's more common to see freestyle skateboarders with their trucks really tight. It makes things like pressure flips, going into railstand, going into Casper, any sort of trick that you need the board to just flop over from pressing down on it is a lot easier with tighter trucks. But with a little effort, you can make it happen with looser trucks as well. It's all preference, and it's up to you to decide what you want to ride. So once you got your deck figured out, and once you have your trucks figured out, the next thing that you would want to look at, and one of the things that I think is the most important, is your wheels. Now these are normal Spitfire conical wheels, and as you can see, the nut on the wheel, or the nut from the truck, sticks out above the wheel. Now this will make things like standing in rail stands a little trickier, and it'll make standing in rail stand not as comfortable. This is a freestyle wheel from Decomposed. As you can see, the truck bolt is sunken into the wheel, making the board stand on the surface area of the wheel, and also making your foot stand on the surface area of the wheel. This makes standing in rail stand a ton easier, and it makes getting into rail stand and locking into that stance a lot easier as well. Now you might be wondering why on these freestyle wheels is the axle nut sunken in like this? Well, that's because the bearing core, which is where both of the bearings go into the wheel, is offset. So typically on a street skateboard, the bearing core is right in the middle of the wheel. Both bearings go in the same amount, and then that's where the wheel sits. On a freestyle board, the bearing core is more on the inside of the wheel. One bearing goes there a little bit, and the other one goes in a lot farther, making the center bearing core of the wheel shifted a bit. Now, if you're looking for freestyle wheels, I recommend checking out places like Waltz Skateboarding, Decomposed Skateboards. If you're from Canada, look up MLM Skates. There's also an online skate shop from BC called Cal Skates. They have a lot of freestyle equipment as well. There are brands like OJ that makes offset bearing core wheels as well. And there's also brands like Powell that has like the Nano Cubics, for instance. That wheel is more designed for parallel between street skateboarding and freestyle. From what I've heard, it's not the best just freestyle wheel, but it is like okay if you're doing both. And lastly, the final thing that I would recommend you getting are skid pads. Now, in freestyle skateboarding, you do a lot of tricks where you're standing on the tail of your board, on the nose of your board. You do pogos, that's bashing your nose or tail into the ground and jumping on it like a pogo stick. And if you don't have skid plates on, you will start to get a bit of a razor tail. If your tail or nose is really skinny from doing razor tails and you do a pogo, you're just gonna demolish your board. It's gonna splinter away and chip away, and you're just destroying your skateboard. So what these do is protect your board from getting razor tail. The skid plate will now start wearing down instead of the board, giving you more area and giving your tail and nose more strength to do things like pogos. And lastly, it's just a lot of experimenting and figuring out what you like to ride and what your setup should be like. Now, you don't have to do all of these things if you just wanted to try freestyle wheels, or if you just wanted to try skid plates, or if your board is an 8.5 instead of a smaller shape. That's fine, honestly. You can learn a ton of freestyle tricks just on a regular street board. In fact, there are lots of freestyle skateboarders out there that prefer using street decks over freestyle decks. Skateboarding is all subjective, and it's just up to you in deciding what you like to ride. But honestly, these are some really good tips into help setting up your street skateboard into a freestyle board. And if you're having trouble finding freestyle decks out into the wild, if you follow these guidelines, you can find something that works pretty well. One other tip I guess you could do as well, street skateboards have really rounded kicktails. And freestyle boards, typically on the tail end, it's pretty squared off. You could sand this down so that it's nice and flat and squared off, but I wouldn't recommend doing it. I'm not really experienced with woodworking in that way, so I feel like I would just butcher it and it would look way worse than when I started. But if you can find a board with a really mellow concave that is around a 7.75, you should be okay. Anyways, guys, I hope that was some useful information. I hope you picked up some good ideas from that video. Let me know if this worked for you. Drop a like, drop a share, subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this content, and have fun skating. See ya.